Magic round. Unfortunately, not so magic for the Warriors. Another tough loss to take, but hey, the boys fought at it, played for 80 again. Let's take a look how this played out. Hey team, welcome back to the Warriorholic. Man, some of these can be pretty hard to take, but having a couple of days to reflect on it, watching the game again there, you know, I guess the result generally did reflect the quality of the teams. In fact, watching how we've gone this whole season, trying to figure out if I can see a bit of a trend here. 5 from 10, sitting there around the middle of the pack. 4 points out of the top 2, 4 points out of the bottom. Kind of sort of sums up where we are. You know, I think we've played probably some of the most consistent footy out of all of the teams in the NRL this year. And unfortunately, it's been such an unpredictable competition that it really comes down to luck as to whether the teams we're playing turn up on the day. You know, for the last 3 weeks, we've played 3 of the top teams have been bloody inconsistent. They've all lost as many as they've won. A lot of them have been blown out quite big as well. But unfortunately, they all decided to turn up against the Warriors, and we just struggled to match it with them. We just struggled for that X factor that they had. The Storm, the Roosters, and the Panthers. And if we're really honest with ourselves, that's probably a fair reflection. If we have a couple of lucky games up against these top teams or slightly off it, with the way we're playing, we'll beat them. If we get a bit more luck with our injuries, we'll do better. But at the end of the day, I still think we're maybe 2 or 3 genuine world-class players away from being a consistent, top 4 side. You look at the most dominant team and most consistent team for me this year is Souths. They've just got X factor across the field. You look at Brisbane, you could argue if Payne Haas goes down, they don't stand a chance of winning. He's making such a big difference for them. So it'll be tough for those guys over the next couple of weeks through the Origin period. And we'll see whether Brisbane really are a contender and if Payne Haas can come back after Origin and produce his pre-Origin form, which he struggled to do last year. So we're not going to be impacted by that from a negative aspect. We won't have anyone out. So it's a real chance for us to kind of try and get through the Bulldogs this week, take our bye and come back refreshed and start to try and put a lot of pressure on these top teams as we go through the Origin period. So yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, I was pissed off at the end of, inconsistency in the refereeing over the weekend yet again. Jason Paris, the CEO of One New Zealand there, expressing his frustration. I'm not sure I'd go as far as to say I think the refs were cheats. I just think they're just incompetent, The bunker was put in there to get rid of the howlers, but when you see that Statistical clearly tried to grab Nathan Cleary by the collar, he missed the grab and his hand slid into his jaw. That's a penalty at best. You can see the fact he didn't get charged, there was nothing in it. If we did get charged and he did go to the judiciary, just put up against what he did against Latrell in the weekend. Took a clear swing at Harry Grant and hit him in the face. No penalty. So for me, that's the inconsistency that's really starting to annoy me. The countless headshots. Cossey copped a head and a shoulder to the face simultaneously in one tackle that sent him off with an HIA. No bunker review, no penalty, or at least no report, no one in the bin, which is going to have a bigger long-term impact on a guy's head. A slight slap to the face or a shoulder and a head to the face. Just inconsistent. But hey, I think that's just something we have to learn to deal with, and we have to take the refs out of the game. So overall, at the start of the season, all we asked for was the boys to play with more consistency and more heart. And shit, they've done that in every round, and they've done it in these past 3 losses. Could we have played better? Yes. Did we struggle to deliver in some of the really big moments? Yeah, we did. But we created them. If we look at the stats in a moment, we pretty much matched them in most areas of the game. Got slightly outdone there in some of the key stats, and that reflected the outcome. But it wasn't a blowout. We fought to the end. They struggled to break our line. And if anyone had offered us that at this time last year, we would have taken it and run. So the boys have made progression. But as I said, I think it's an acknowledgement we're still a couple of players away from being genuine contenders. So, you know, let's enjoy the ride. We'll have some frustrations like this weekend as we go, but we'll definitely have some solid wins. So let's have a quick look at the stats and how this game played out. So we go down 6 to 18, sorry. You know, probably a fair reflection on the game. I think we could have got a couple of extra tries, but at the end of the day, luck wasn't on our side, but a guy like SJ just happens to slip and falls over when he makes that break. You know, lack of execution when he just put that ball on his foot and kicked it out dead off the back of the Curran line break. Shit, that was just the way things went this weekend. Possession-wise, 47 to 53, pretty even. Completion rate's exactly the same, 85, though they had 7 more sets than us. Line breaks, 6-8. Tackle breaks, 47 to 59. That's a little bit of a reflection there that they had a little bit more, you know, of the line breaks than we had, which probably leads to a couple more tries. Kicking meters, we kicked for more meters, 851 versus 804, but kick return, 220 meters versus 284. You know, and that's reflected in the fact that, you know, they had 2 or 3 guys well over 200 meters. And I think Montoya, he was our highest there at 196, so we didn't have anyone to break the 200 meter mark. Kick defusals, we only diffused 85%, they diffused 100%. We just couldn't find the, you know, the mistakes from them under the high ball or taking the kicks there. Missed tackles, 59 versus 47, not a huge amount of difference there. And 82% tackle efficiency versus 85. So, you know, all of those there reflect that it was a pretty good matchup. You've got, you know, the coming up to trying to be 3-time Premier winners in a row against a team that's really struggled for the past few years. So we've got to take that as a win. Errors, 7 to us, 8 to them. Penalty count, we concede 5, they concede 2. Yeah, nothing to see there. Ruck infringements, 4 to us, 1 to them. There's no way. There's no way. They only get 1 ruck infringement in the whole frigging game. On report, we got 1, Simbins 2. You know, I don't know. I'll shake my head and I won't get into that too much, but very, very frustrating that, you know, I don't think it's cheating. I just think it's an unconscious bias that people just tend to, or refs, I should say, in the bunkers tend to give the better of 2 teams, you know, the rub of the green. And that's not just us. You know, teams like the Tigers or St George or the Gold Coast, they'll get the same shit sandwich we do as well. Standout players of the round there, 48 tackles for Tohu versus 42 for Yo. I thought Tohu more than matched Yo actually in the weekend. Running meters there, 196, as I said, for Montoya versus 257 for Dylan Edwards. Man, that boy's class. I was hoping that Chance might match him, but he just didn't even get close in the weekend. And line breaks there, 2 apiece for SJ and for Dylan Edwards. He's just an outstanding fullback that people are starting to recognise as probably in the top, you know, easily in the top 4 as far as consistency goes. You know, highlight for the match, you know, for me was that hit Cossey put on Stephen Crichton. Such a shame that the knees clashed there. You take away a winger from any side, you're always going to struggle to cover that gap. I thought Niakore did okay there going into the centres, but he showed it's not a position we want him there at every week. You know, if you ask me to pick players who didn't stand up and didn't deliver, it's bloody hard, mate, because they all played really, really well. A couple of poor decisions from SJ, but a whole heck more of good points from him that outweigh the few bad points. You know, trying to reflect on, if I'm honest, about who you'd get rid of and who you'd want to replace there, it's bloody hard because the boys are putting in the effort and I like all of them. But I still think we're a genuine, super quick, tall, leaping winger on Dallin's side short. I think we're still a strike centre short, which will be filled by RTS there. Dylan Walker, as hard as he's playing, he's not a top class 5'8" these days. He doesn't have the creativity. We really missed him and Jazz coming off the bench in that 1-2 punch. So the sooner we can get Metcalf out there, for all accounts he should be back next week. That will make a big difference to our attack there. you know, our back row, well, our two-edge back rows, like I'm a huge fan of Murata and Ford, but man, those boys give away some silly penalties. And I just feel like they run into the man too often. They're not running into holes. They lack a little bit of pace that we saw from the edge back rows from the Panthers there. So when they get through a gap, that's great, but we just need a little bit more like better running from them where they're hitting holes rather than just running straight into the opposition players when they do have to make hit-ups. You know, I feel like if you pumped a guy like Kickout into one side there, he would make a huge difference to a team like we've got at the moment. We don't really have that big back rower who's drawing in multiple defenders and able to offload and creating space for those outside him. Adam Fanua-Blake's doing that well in the middle, but we just need that sort of offloading, like a bit more powerful player on one of those edges for me. And at the moment, we're still short of front row. I think Bunty really stepped up in the weekend. I think he ran for close to 110 metres in his 40 minutes there. So that's one of his best running games so far, and he makes a huge amount of tackles. But again, not world class. If you can put another prop in there, like, you know, you've got a lot of the top teams with that 1-2 punch, and we get another top class prop to match AFB, that's where the difference between us is and those top four at the moment. It's a prop. It's a big ball playing edge back rower. It's getting that 5/8 in there, getting Tamati Martin or Metcalf back in there. It's getting RTS in it in the centres. And I still believe we need that extra real quick winger on one side to complement Kostia on the other. It's a reality, but I still think we've got a team to go deep into the finals this year. We've got to keep progression. We've got to keep getting some of these guys back and not losing our quality players. At some point, the bounce and the ball's got to turn in our favour. At some point, we've got to get a couple of runs with a few decent calls from the refs. I'm still all in, as tired as I am after that bloody weekend. I can't wait for Team Naming Tuesday. Hopefully see Metcalf back in that lineup. Hope we get some really good news about Barnett when he sees the specialist today, because the rumours are he might have to retire. And I really hope that's not the case for him, for his family and for the team. But if it comes down to it, mate, look after your health. We'll find another player, but you can't get two new legs if yours aren't working, mate. So hopefully we make a bit of progression with these injuries. Hopefully the boys have got enough energy to get up over these bloody Bulldogs this week. Let's go, boys. Rest up. Get ready for a big one. I'm still in with the Warriors for 2024. I hope you are too. This is a Warriorholic. See you next time.